Welcome in. This is a segment from the Slumpbuster FFB Podcast with Aris Blakeney. Find the full episode on Spotify, iTunes, the Google Play Store, or our YouTube channel. Enjoy.
Alrighty, so let's go ahead and start off with Atlanta at Minnesota. This was a very odd game. Atlanta was getting shut out until the fourth quarter. Minnesota won 28-12. Kirk Cousins had a terrible day fantasy-wise. 8 for 10, 98 yards and a touchdown. Dalvin Cook was actually the monster here. 21 rushes, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. Alexander Mattinson, 9 rushes, 49 yards. He's going to be that, handcuff. And then Diggs. Man, I had Diggs on a team and just coming off an injury, terrible. 2 catches, 37 yards, no touchdowns. Even Adam Thielen had a terrible day, just saved it by scoring a touchdown. 3 catches, 43 yards. Defense, though, for Minnesota, ridiculous. 4 sacks, 2 picks. They held Matt Ryan in check until the fourth quarter garbage time. Pretty much all of Matt Ryan's, stats came in the fourth quarter. He went 33 for 46, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. Freeman didn't do much. 8 rushes, 19 yards, 3 catches for 12 yards. Hooper didn't do much, 9 catches, 77. And then Julio Jones didn't score until 1 minute left in the game. He had 6 catches for 30 yards at that point, killing everybody's fantasy days. And then, bam, finally caught 1 minute left. Did you watch this game at all or no?
So I didn't get to watch this game, though I do have Adam Thielen on my fantasy. And like you said, he got that touchdown pretty early on, right, in the first quarter. And so my projections shot up and I was all happy. And I was like, this is going to be a good day, right? Like, as long as Adam Thielen could, at least get another one of those for me on the day or something, put up some good yards, I'm going to be happy. And then it sort of just plateaued. And like you said, Kirk Cousins did not have the best day. And so Adam Thielen, he still put up pretty decent points for me. I want to say, let me see if I have him. So I have him in a non-PPR league. So he did okay. He almost performed to his projections, but still came in slightly under.
Yeah, and hopefully this isn't the trend going forward, but they did say they wanted to become a rushing team. So if you have Dalvin Cook's still going to perform for you. Hopefully he keeps putting up that 21 rushes, 111 yards, 2 touchdown line. But we'll kind of wait. But I hope that 8 for 10 for Kirk Cousins doesn't continue to happen, because that would be absolutely terrible, especially for Diggs and Thielen owners. So hopefully this pans out to where it's more like last year, where they threw the ball and ran the ball, maybe like a 60-40 split. So Thielen and Diggs can both be supported in this offense. But right now, Minnesota's looking like they want to be a run-first team. And then Atlanta, I don't know what happened, but they were terrible. Matt Ryan threw 2 picks in the first half. Freeman didn't do anything. Jones didn't do anything. Calvin Ridley didn't do anything. So your whole day was just shot because, hell, I have Matt Ryan on a team, and I was pissed at him. I was about to drop him.
Yeah, I don't think this trend will continue. I think for a lot of people, it's first game sort of jitters, right? Like even the Green Bay and Chicago game, right? That was the Thursday night game. Like, I want to say in one of my leagues that Aaron Rodgers only put up 12 points or something like that. And so I'm hoping that a lot of these trends, they probably will not continue throughout the whole season. But if they do, then, you should be really worried and start making some waiver claims and trying to make some trades.
Yeah, that hopefully Matt Ryan, because he finished second in QB rankings last year for fantasy purposes. Hopefully that can continue, because you want a number 2, because Patrick Mahomes obviously is going to be number 1 if he can stay healthy. They did have a scare today, so hopefully to get a number 2 or top 5 quarterback to help you out with the league. But you mentioned Thursday night. Let's kind of break down that game. So Packers at Bears. It was a 10-3 defensive battle. Packers won that one. Rodgers went 18 for 30. He had 1 touchdown. Yardage was terrible. Aaron Jones, people were picking him in the late first, early second. 13 carries for 39 yards. Devontae Adams only had 4 catches for 36 yards. MVS had 4 catches for 52 yards. And then Jimmy Graham was the only player, actually Allen Robinson. He was the only Packer you wanted to own because he had 3 catches, 30 yards, and a touchdown, which saved that game. He was the only person to score in that game as well. Trubisky had a no touchdowns interception. Montgomery didn't do anything. He had six carries, 18 yards. Tariq Cohen didn't do anything, 8 catches for 49 yards. But then Allen Robinson, 7 catches for 102 yards. So only person to even get past 50.
Yeah. And so I think for me, if I'm, an owner of one of the Bears offensive guys, right? So Allen Robinson, I think is going to be okay. He looked to perform really well. PPR wise, like Tariq Cohen's, decent flex, probably not a first option for running back, but just the sheer amount of catches that he does get, right? He'll get you a point every time he gets one of those receptions. But just in a regular league, like both running backs did not perform very well. And so I'd be a little bit nervous for the Bears. Hopefully their offense doesn't continue. And Green Bay's defense looked better, right? They definitely look better than they have in the past few years. But I would still be worried because, Green Bay's defense isn't – I wouldn't say that, they're like a top 5 defense in the league or anything like that. And so the fact that they struggled to score against this caliber of a defense.
Yeah, and the Packers, they're not going to have those numbers, going forward. They played Bears, who are, arguably one of the best defenses in the league. So don't expect Adams to put up 36 yards. Don't expect Jones to put up 39 yards. Rodgers is going to have better games. So there is hope there. Hopefully Trubisky can come into form like he was towards the end of last year. Saw those Bears players, pick up in their value as well. Next game, Washington at Philly. This was a surprising game in the first half. Washington was up 20-7 at halftime.
Yeah, I was incredibly surprised. So now what I will say is I did think that Carson Wentz was going to make a comeback. And so one of our buddies, Scott, he has Carson Wentz. I was playing him this week, and I knew right away going into halftime, I was like, what I'm really worried about is Carson Wentz shaking off the rust, right, getting back to it and coming back in the second half. And sure enough, he did just that. But I will say, I didn't have very much hope for the Redskins. I didn't see a whole lot of bright spots in, any of their team at all, right, defense or offense. And they actually surprised me. I thought they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, Case Keenum, I'm very sorry for making the joke earlier about how you're not going to draft you or ever play you because you had 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, sir, I am extremely sorry. On that note, they looked really good on offense. Keenum had 3 touchdowns. Vernon Davis, the ageless Vernon Davis, had 4 catches, 59 yards, and 1 touchdown. Jordan Reed having, 7 concussions. I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. He's been in concussion protocol all preseason long. So Vernon Davis might be a streamer tight end going forward for you. But first off, I'd like to, say, thoughts and prayers with the Davis family for losing their grandfather. It's awesome that you were able to honor him by catching a touchdown in such, awesome fashion, hurdling a guy. That was an awesome touchdown to see. So thoughts and prayers go out to you. Hopefully you guys can, heal from that because losing a grandparent who is, as he said, his father figure. So, thoughts and prayers to him. But the MVP of this game was Deshaun Jackson coming back to his old team, playing a former team. He went off in this one. 8 catches, 154 yards, 2 touchdowns. He scored 2 touchdowns over 50 yards, pulling in within 1 of the NFL record for touchdowns scored over 50 yards. He looked, like Deshaun Jackson of old, running down the field, running past defenders. I'm really glad I picked him up. I was at first really mad because I was like, he's not doing anything. And then, bam, 2 touchdowns, 154 yards. So I was like, all righty, buddy. I like this.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, right, is the Eagles, and we've been saying it, sort of all preseason long, and a lot of people have been saying it all over the media, but they've got some weapons. And I really think it was just sort of a little bit of rust, right? Like they weren't really into rhythm in the first half. But as soon as they got into rhythm, right, I don't think – I really do hope that Jackson can continue to perform at that level. I don't know if he necessarily will, but there's other options that, Philadelphia has, right? Like obviously Ertz is really good and, even Jordan Howard is a really good running back. He didn't perform that well today, right? But I would venture to say, like, if there's a team that has a really weak run defense, he'll pop off. So the Eagles, they didn't look good at first, but I think they'll get back to their form that we saw them get to that Super Bowl.
Yeah, Zach Ertz definitely hurt every fantasy owner out there, including me. Thank you, Zach Ertz. 5 catches, 54 yards is not what you want out of one of the elite, tight ends in the league. Him, Kelsey, and Kittle all underperformed, even though Kelsey had 88 yards on 3 catches. Neither one of them had a touchdown. That's what you were looking for. You were looking for that 100 yards. And then you mentioned Alshon Jeffrey. He did have a touchdown with 49 yards. So he had 2 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
He had the rushing touchdown as well. I forgot about that for a second. So, he saved his performance with the 2 touchdowns. But the running back situation is going to be, an odd one for the beginning. You had Sproles start the game, and then Sanders and Howard kind of mix in. Though Sanders did look like the best running back out of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
He only had 25 yards, but he had a 25-yard touchdown called back on a holding call. He got shoestring tackled. I think it was at the 3-yard line. So I think by midseason, this will be his backfield with Sproles mixing in, and Howard will be traded to a running back needy team.
Yeah, I think you're right. I totally agree.
And then the bright spot for Washington was Terry McLaurin. If you drafted him, good for you. 5 catches, 125 yards, 1 touchdown. It looks like on a receiver-needy team, he is going to become the number 1. He looked athletic out there. He had a deep pass, perfectly. He had one actually that was overthrown as well. So he could have had even a bigger game with 2 touchdowns and, add another 60 yards onto that. So he's definitely going to be somebody to look at on the waiver wire, especially because they do need a number 1 receiver. Next is Los Angeles Rams at Carolina, or should I say Los Angeles Rams at Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah.
Because Christian McCaffrey was the entire offense. He led all the rushing categories. He led all the receiving categories. This was his game. Really nobody else on the field did well for Carolina. Rams obviously pulled it out in a pretty good shootout. I liked the game. It was entertaining to watch. But the surprising thing was Gurley didn't get any goal line carries. They all went to Malcolm Brown. He scored on both of those opportunities. He had 11 rushes for 53 yards, where Gurley only had 14 touches for 97 yards. So, is the knee a bigger issue than what they're making it believe to be? We're not too sure, but it is a bit concerned, that he isn't in there in the goal line situations, especially what you want him there for.
I definitely think the highlight of that game was Christian McCaffrey. I'm a little bit disappointed. So I actually made a trade for, I gave away C-Mac and Jarvis Landry and picked up Saquon Barkley and then Tyrell Williams. And I was happy because, AB is no longer on the Raiders. And so I was like, oh, Williams is going to get some more targets now. So I was like, that's good. And then I think Saquon, so if you look at it, Saquon, I think athletically and talent-wise seems to be better than McCaffrey. But, man, C-Mac just ran through everybody today. Like, there was no stopping him. And Barkley, I think he is a good running back, but it's sort of one-dimensional on the Giants right now, which I'm sure we'll get to here in a little bit. And so he did not have as good a day. And so I was definitely regretting that trade a little bit.
Yeah, C-Mac went 19 carries, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns, 10 catches for 81 yards, 200-plus scrimmage yards, 2 touchdowns. He would have had a third one, but it got vultured by the fullback. So he could have had an even bigger day, which is scary. I did like seeing Greg Olsen back, though he only had 4 catches for 36 yards. But it was nice to see him back. I'm a fan of his. Hopefully he can stay healthy. And then DJ Moore owners, I'm so sorry. He only had 7 catches, 76 yards. But he had a fumble. So, yeah, not too good for him. And then all the trio receivers in Woods, Kupp, and Cooks all had terrible days. 8 catches, 70 yards for Woods, 7 catches, 46 yards for Kupp, 2 catches for 39 yards for Cooks. The one good spot was all of the breaks, all of the cuts and everything in Cooper Kupp's routes looked really good coming off an ACL injury. So, you'll definitely see that 46 yards go up and, score some touchdowns there as well. One of the games that surprised me, Cincinnati at Seattle. Did you watch this game at all, Andre?
No. So I'll tell you exactly what happened is I have to fulfill my boyfriend duties and take my girlfriend out to a movie on Sundays, right? And so I was like, okay, as long as we can do it before the Steelers game, because that's the main one I want to watch. So that was during the Bengals game. And I had Joe Mixon in my fantasy. And so when I left for the movie, I was projected to win this game, or well, at least this week. I was like, oh, Joe Mixon's going to be fine. And then I saw, like, as soon as we got out of the movie, that he had 1 point and got injured and rolled his ankle or something like that. So that's the only thing I've seen from that game.
So this game was pretty exciting to watch, even though they didn't move the ball very well. But it was a close game throughout the whole game. Jadeveon Clowney's presence was felt immediately, swatted down a ball on the first drive. But Andy Dalton, surprisingly, had a career day in completions and yards. He went 35 for 51, 418 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He balled out. And the crazy part is, you would think with those numbers, all of them went to Boyd, because Boyd is supposed to be the projected guy to fill in for A.J. Green, but he only went 8 catches for 60 yards. The guy who balled out changed his number, and I didn't know who he was for the first quarter until they started saying his name, but it was John Ross. John Ross, the first-round pick, finally came into his own. 7 catches, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's definitely going to be one of the hottest waiver wire picks, especially if he could stay healthy. I don't think he's going to have the same numbers, but he now shows he's a big play receiver, and he can have that. But yeah, Mixon, 6 carries, 10 yards, 2 catches for 7 yards, left with an ankle injury. So Giovanni Bernard shows he's already can handle a load. So he'll definitely be somebody to keep an eye on the waiver wire, depending on Mixon's health. And then Seattle Seahawks. I hate this team with a passion, but I love this team with a passion. They want to establish the run, but they're better when they pass the ball. Russell Wilson has one of the most beautiful downfield passes in the league, but he only had 100 yards passing, 198 with 2 touchdowns. I don't know why they don't throw the ball more. They want to run the ball. They were the best running team in the league last year, but they're better when they throw the ball. Chris Carson had a pretty good day, 15 carries, 46 yards, 1 touchdown, added 6 catches, 35 yards, and a touchdown. Surprisingly, Tyler Lockett, the new number 1, didn't get targeted until the 4th quarter. And on that 1 target, he went 44 yards to the house. So he saved his day with that touchdown, pissing off a lot of fantasy owners until that 4th quarter. And that was actually the game-winning touchdown. So they all loved him after that. But I liked DK Metcalf in this, 4 catches, 89 yards. Somebody to get on the waiver wire and just stash him for a couple weeks as he comes into his own after that injury, after the tightness. And hopefully Russell Wilson will actually throw the ball, because this 198 yards is BS. I hate it because he's my quarterback. And I hate him so much. But I'm like, dude, he can pop off for 3 touchdowns, 350 yards, and win you the week. But then the following week, he does this, 198 yards and 1 touchdown until the 4th quarter. I was hating my life. I hate him, but I love him. I love you, Russell. All righty, so your guy Saquon that you traded for went to Dallas and had a pretty good day, even though they got creamed in Dallas. And Dallas's offense in this Kellen Moore scheme looks like it's going to be scary. Dak Prescott set a record for most passing yards on an opening day for a Dallas Cowboy, 405 yards and 4 touchdowns. I don't ever think that I ever thought Dak would throw for 400 yards because he's never shown that before. But it looks like Kellen Moore is actually bringing out the passer in Dak.
Yeah, and I think what's really important is that I think Kellen Moore, he's not trying to make Dak something he's not. He's not trying to turn him into an Aaron Rodgers where, he's going to be making these huge Hail Mary plays and still, getting it accurate enough to pull in for a touchdown or anything like that. They have an offense where they can utilize Dak's ability to throw anywhere from 5 to 15, 20 yards or something like that accurately. And that's about as far as they need to throw it. But they also have it really well balanced with the run. So they can attack you from a lot of different places.
Yeah, and Zeke also is going to help out with that. You got the play action run. People are going to want to stack the box for Zeke. So are you going to put 8 in the box and let them throw over top of you, or are you going to put 7 in the box, 6 in the box, and let Zeke run all over you? So this offense looks like it could be a fun one to play in and to watch. Zeke kind of had an off game for his standards: 13 carries, 53 yards, and a touchdown, 1 catch for 10 yards. Obviously, that's probably just rust coming off. Mari Cooper had a really good day for number 1 receiver, 6 catches, 106 yards, and 1 touchdown. Old man Cobb had 4 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown, and he did not look old. He was running all over the place. And then everybody's favorite tight end in Dallas, Jason Witten. 3 catches, 15 yards, and 1 touchdown. And it was the slowest touchdown I've ever seen in my life.
But that's what you're getting with Jason Witten is he's not moving fast, but he's moving though. And I'm happy for him, right? To come back out of retirement. He wasn't retired for very long. But everybody sort of knew that was going to be the capacity that he's in. He's not going to be, your Zach Ertz and, your Travis Kelce's or anything like that. He's going to make a bunch of small little catches, and then occasionally he'll get you a touchdown.
Yeah, I think he's going to be right around that 3 to 5 catch, 15 yards to 50 yards, depending on how many catches he gets. And then depending on where they're at in the field, I don't think he's going to have a 50-yard touchdown because him running 5 yards was, molasses speed over there.
Yeah. Yeah. He was not the quickest guy before he retired. He's definitely not the quickest guy after he's retired.
Yeah, it was sad to see him run. I'm like, dude, I know you wanted to come back, but that was a slow touchdown. But I know the Cowboys fans are loving Michael Gallup's emergence finally into this offense. They're seeing, him actually come into his own. This guy had 7 catches, 158 yards, no touchdowns, but that touchdown is going to come eventually. I don't think the 158 yards is going to happen every week, but he looks like he can, with that speed, turn those 7 catches into 100 yards. But he looked really good, surprisingly. So I was pretty surprised with him because usually Gallup isn't one of those type of players to go off. And then Manning, holy cow, looked like old Manning. There was a play evading the defensive rush where it looked like it was the play from the Super Bowl where he got out, spun out, put his hand on the ground, turned around, and then threw the ball downfield for a completion. I wanted to test him for steroids right then and there because he did not look like that last year. Unless he talked to Tom Brady and got on that TB12 method, because Manning looked like a different Manning. It was pretty surprising. 30 completions, 44 attempts, 306 yards, and a touchdown. He threw the ball downfield, which he didn't do last year. He only had 3 passes of 50 yards or more last year. Yeah, he needs to be tested for PEDs immediately.
So do you think, because I know there was a lot of rumbling, right? Like, oh, he's going to get replaced with Daniel Jones, even though they lost, right? Like you said, he still performed all right. He did look better than he has in the past. Do you think there's still the push to replace Eli this year?
With this performance, no. In garbage time, since they were down 35-17 at the point, they brought Daniel Jones in. He went 1 for 3, had a fumble, didn't look like he was up to the speed of the game just yet. So I think it might just take a little bit more for Daniel Jones to come in. But if Manning can keep putting up these stats and not put up last year Manning, they love him in New York. Hell, when they benched him for that one game, the coach got fired for it. Mm-hmm. So if he can continue to put up these numbers, they'll keep him in there. But, yeah, Barkley had a really good game, 120 yards on 11 carries, 19 yards on a catch, 4 catches, but didn't have the touchdown. Evan Ingram did have a touchdown, which he's going to be the number 1 guy out there now. 11 catches, 116 yards, and a touchdown. And then that touchdown that Barkley got or was supposed to get went to Will Goldman, his backup, but it happened in garbage time. So, you can't expect that all the time. So hopefully they won't get breaks beaten off of them like they did so early in the game where they just got away from them and they just sat all their starters. So those touchdowns will come with Saquon. He is the best back in the league, in my opinion. Some of these jump cuts that he was doing reminded me of LT, reminded me of Sweetness. Some of these jump cuts were amazing. So he and Zeke will definitely be battling for top running back in the league, for many years to come. So probably the worst game of the week, Detroit at Arizona. It was a 27-all tie. Yeah, week 1 ties are becoming a thing now. Because didn't you guys tie week 1 against Cleveland last year?
Yeah, we did, unfortunately, right? So, and that was part of the reason why we were out of the playoffs.
So I guess week 1 ties are going to be a thing. Let me know who your week 1 tie is going to be next year, even though the schedules aren't out yet. Because apparently people just want to tie on week 1. Stafford killed it as usual. They're a throwing team. He had 3 touchdowns. Kerryon Johnson only had 46 yards rushing. But the guy of the game was TJ Hawkinson, rookie tight end. Many people didn't draft him, but he had 6 catches, 131 yards, and a touchdown. And this guy was everything he was advertised to be. Coming out of college, everybody, loved his athleticism, loved his vision of the field, and this guy can ball. And Stafford loves to throw the ball, so hopefully this continues. If he's on your waiver wire, pick him up now. It was amazing. Hopefully you saw this game because Kyler Murray looked like garbage in the first